Hi, I'm Nomad Nurse C, and I help nurses find remote nursing jobs that don't require prior remote experience. In today's video, we're going to be talking about why you haven't heard back regarding an application you've submitted. So, if you're interested in learning more about that, stay tuned. Alright, reason number one why you haven't heard back from an application you've submitted is because your resume was not optimized. Nowadays, a computer is scanning all of the applicants' resumes that come in before a human ever lays eyes on it. So it's really important that you beat what's called the applicant tracking system, or ATS, and make sure that you are optimizing your resume with certain keywords based on the type of job you're applying for. It's important to have bullet points and a summary section at the beginning. It's important that you don't have any graphs or charts because those are hard for the computer to read as well. And then also there's a very nice sweet spot that they recommend having your resume as far as the word count go. And it's something that if you are writing 1,000 words, the computer is really not spending a whole lot of time on those applications. I believe the resume word count is really recommended to be between like 400 to 600, around that range of applications that they're really seeing do well. They have that amount of word count, so it's important to make sure that you don't have too many words and not too little words. Another thing about your resume is that you are not putting in highlights, that you are actually just putting in responsibilities. So what do I mean by that? Well, a responsibility for a nurse would be something like documented patient status and charted INOs. That's a responsibility that you and most every other nurse has had in their nursing career at some point. But an achievement would be something similar to like spearheaded a new fall prevention program on the unit for 6 months, or something along those lines, where it is showing something that you did that is different from maybe another nurse that has a similar background to you. And I always like to think that if there were two nurses applying for the same job with a similar background, how would you make yourself stand out? So you've got resume A and resume B. They both have 6 years of med-surg experience. How are you going to stand out? Really, the best way that you can stand out is by highlighting achievements over responsibilities. And that is something that I think a lot of nurses have trouble thinking about, because they're like, achievements, like they initially think of awards, which is, yes, an achievement. But other ways that you can highlight an achievement is not only for you, but also your unit. So is your unit the unit with the least amount of CLABSIs for that quarter? Those are also things that you can highlight on your resume to show that you're proud of being on that team. That shows a teamwork mentality instead of individual type of mentality where you're only interested in your own achievements. It shows that you're also interested in your team doing well as well. So another thing that that you may be doing on your resume that you shouldn't be doing is going over 2 pages. Please keep it to 2 pages and under. You can have a 1-page resume, you can have a 2-page resume. That's really not a problem. What's really a problem is when you're getting into page 3. That is too much. You need to keep it to 2 pages and under. And then the other thing too, please make sure you don't have a photo on your resume. Photos are really designed for jobs that your face matters. So what do I mean by that? Like, models would be an example of where your face would matter, because they literally are in front of the camera. So not to say that your face doesn't matter, but please, that is something that is not for the nursing profession. That is for other professions completely. So please, no like headshots or anything like that. The other thing that that you may be doing on your resume is not putting it in the right like chronological order. You should actually be putting it in reverse chronological order. What does that mean? It basically means put the newest stuff towards the beginning and the oldest stuff at the bottom. People want to see what you're doing now, not what you used to do 10 years ago. They want to know like where you have landed. Everyone kind of realizes that the first job that you had in nursing is probably going to be maybe not the best, and over time you got into better positions. Maybe you got into being a charge nurse or a supervisor or something along those lines where you kind of went and kind of glowed up a little bit in your nursing career, for no other better terminology. But yeah, go ahead and make sure that your newest stuff is at the beginning, your oldest stuff is at the end. And then also, if you are not a new grad, please make sure that you are putting your experience first on your resume. So you should have your name, your contact information, your summary statement of who you are briefly, and then go right into experience, followed by education, and then achievements, awards, certifications, those type of things. The reason for that is because, again, we're comparing resume A with resume B. If you're a nurse now with the 6 years of med-surg experience, if they both have bachelor's degrees, they're still not standing out. So one way that they can stand out is through the experience section. So we want to put that first. Now, if you're a new grad, you're not going to have experience, so please place your education first, and then your experience, which may be relevant to the position you're applying for. But we're not talking about new grads. This is really supposed to be designed for the experienced nurse, because remote nursing roles are very hard to get into. So if you're a new grad watching this, you're on a great track to trying to figure out what to do later, but I really recommend that you at least have 2 years of nursing under your belt before applying to these remote nursing roles. Not that you can't get it if you know someone, for example, but I'm just letting you know that nurses with like 10 years of experience still can have trouble finding a remote nursing role. So it's important that you have a good background in nursing before applying to these remote nursing roles. So anyway, coming back to your resume, please make sure that it is optimized well and you are updating it. If you have spelling errors, please go ahead and take out the spelling errors. But there is another website that I kind of recommend for the people in my program. You can actually submit your resume against the job that you want, and it will tell you if you're using the right amount of keywords. So I'll go ahead and put a link to that below. I have no association with the link. It's just a tool and resource that I have found that I like to use if you know what type of job you're specifically applying for. But if you don't want to do all that work, you can reach out to me. I do some resume optimization, as well as I can recommend a few people if you're interested in having someone else do it if you don't want to do it yourself. But that is the first reason why you're not hearing back. Reason number 2 why you haven't heard back is because you're not networking. Networking is how people find jobs nowadays. I think there was a recent sociology paper that talked about how 84% of the respondents got their job through a weak relationship. Weak relationships are things like maybe knowing a person who knows somebody else and they got you the job, or maybe someone you just recently met at a conference. These are weak relationships, and people are nowadays getting their jobs through these relationships. So they're no longer just about, oh yeah, you know my uncle, yeah, he can get you a job. That's really not how it is nowadays. That's great if that's how it is for you, but for the rest of us, that's not how it goes. So a great way you can network is through LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is the world's largest professional network, if you've never heard of it before. And actually 9 out of 10 company recruiters are on LinkedIn. What that means is the company, like different insurance companies, different telemedicine or telehealth companies, the recruiters looking for for applicants to fill those jobs, they're on LinkedIn sometime throughout their workday trying to find applicants that they could send a message to and say, hey, are you interested in applying for this job? Because recruiters still have to find these people, and no longer are the days where things are done through paper and maybe in person. It's really online now, and if you have a complete LinkedIn profile, it can actually make you have up to 36 times more messages, and I think 21 more views just by like having it complete. And I know for a lot of us nurses, myself included, we don't do a great job on LinkedIn. We're really not networking. It's really not our thing as nursing professionals. That's not really something that I was taught in school, how to network, and it made me super uncomfortable when I first got started on LinkedIn. But if you have a Facebook profile, it's very similar to setting everything up on LinkedIn. I would really recommend spending just 2 hours getting it up and running and getting it complete. I think you're really going to see a lot of fruit from your labor if you just do that. And right now I'm going to tell you a couple of tips that you can do that I also tell some of the people in my program. So this is some free advice for you on how to update your LinkedIn profile so that you can network. The first thing is, please make sure you have a professional photo, a background photo. Please don't leave that blank. Underneath your profile there is a section where it's like your header. Please put that as what you want for your next job to be. A lot of people will put something similar like nurse at University of so-and-so, and that's great if you don't want to ever leave your job. But if you're interested in maybe having a job at an insurance company, working with prior authorizations, please put in there like nurse, interested in remote nursing jobs with working with prior authorization for oncology patients. Something in there, because that's what recruiters are looking at and putting in their keywords. They're looking for that skill set, if you will, in your header. So you're really not doing yourself any service of just having nurse at so-and-so. That's the job that you have, and you really need to be optimizing it for the job that you want. So that's one tip that I have for you. And then moving on in the rest of your profile, we've got your about section. Now your about section is really your elevator speech and your pitch. So it should be something very brief, talking about your experience, your background, where your passions lie. I also recommend that you have something kind of general, something that people can connect to. So maybe you have all of your professional information in there. Like for me, take a look at my about section if you like. Again, this is something that really needs to be very short and sweet, but if you want, I also recommend people put something in there about what they're passionate about outside of work, so that people can connect with them on a human level. So for example, if you're an avid rower, or maybe you have competed in Ironman competitions or something like that, that makes it seem more personable, more friendly. People are able to connect with you. I would recommend doing that in your about section. The next section is activity, which activity people can actually see how you're utilizing LinkedIn, what you're doing on there, what you're commenting. So please be aware of it. It's not similar to Facebook in that everyone can see like what you write on other people's posts. So please make sure that you are keeping an eye on what you're writing. And if you are going to write on other people's posts, please make sure to write more than 5 words. Don't put on there something like great post. Go ahead and add something thoughtful, or something that kind of continues the conversation in a positive way. Of course, this is not the time to have like a big argument and troll on somebody's post. You're being watched on that, so this is not the place to do that. This is really a place to form connections with other people and network. So go to the company that you're thinking about applying to, look at their posts that they're posting, and comment something. Let them know that that you're out there, and they'll be able to see in your header that you're looking for a remote position. And maybe a recruiter will go and look at your profile. You never know how these interactions are really going to play into your favor. But go ahead and be active on LinkedIn. Speaking of activity, I want to talk a little bit about messaging on LinkedIn. Now, messaging on LinkedIn is something that you may be restricted to based on what type of account that you have. But go ahead and sign up for the free 30-day premium access, where you can have access to more to messaging more people. But for people that are messaging you, we'll talk a little bit about that. I don't want to get too much into talking about how to message other people, but for this video, I'll talk a little bit about just making sure that you're responding to the recruiters that do contact you, because LinkedIn has an algorithm, just like pretty much every other social platform, where it's learning you, it's seeing how active you are, it's seeing what you're interested in. Please go ahead and let recruiters know if you're not interested in a position, because that lets LinkedIn know that you are active still, and what that does is it will push your profile to other recruiters as well. So it may not be the position that you're looking for, but go ahead and respond anyway to let LinkedIn know that you're active. Another great thing that you can do on LinkedIn is by sending a recommendation to someone. A recommendation is really just kind of like giving someone a shout out. And what happens is sometimes people feel inclined to give you a recommendation back once you've sent one to them. Feel free to use me as a guinea pig if you would like. I'll post my LinkedIn profile down below, and I will look at your profile and message you and give you maybe a personal tip on how you might improve on something on your profile from a complete stranger's perspective. But as far as sending recommendations to someone else, sometimes you won't receive one back, and that's fine, but go ahead and be of the giving nature, and give recommendations to those people that deserve it, the people that really stand out in your mind, maybe went an extra mile, or have just been like really easy to work with. I know a lot of us have like our work wives and everything. Those people matter. Those people make work less miserable if you're in a miserable work setting. Think about those people when you're thinking about who you want to give recommendations to, and they may give you a recommendation back. But however, don't go into it thinking they're going to give me one back, because you're just going to be disappointed. But go ahead and be of the giving mindset, and perhaps you'll receive something in return. Another thing that you can do on LinkedIn is just go ahead and make sure that that everything on there kind of matches your resume. If there's things on there, like maybe you have a job listed on there from when you worked at Little Caesars. I used to work at Little Caesars. That was my first job. Go ahead and take that off if it's really not relevant to your nursing career anymore. Make sure that your profile kind of matches your resume, and that's really why I recommend making sure that your resume is done well, because you can really just take and insert things from your resume into your LinkedIn profile, as far as the education section goes, as far as the experience education goes. Those are things that you can utilize the same bullet points in there. And then as well, the summary section that you should have on your resume, you can copy and paste that paragraph and put it in your about section, with again the addition of making it a little bit personable and having something that people can relate to. So that is reason number 2 why you may not have heard back, is maybe you're not networking efficiently. But one thing that you can do to kind of get yourself started with the networking game is to make sure that your profile is all ready and set up and complete. So once you do that, then you can start messaging people, you can start interacting with them. Reason number 3 why you haven't heard back might be because you're applying to jobs that you shouldn't be applying to. And I hate saying this because I know how much time and energy and effort goes into this application process. Submitting an application, it takes a while. And I realize that, which is why I want to say this, because I don't want you to waste any more of your time if you don't have to. But please make sure that when you're applying to a job, you meet that skill set. Now, a lot of nurses are actually kind of fearful when I am talking to them in my program. They're actually fearful of applying to a job when it says preferred. But really, if it says preferred and not required, you can go ahead and apply to it. It's really those jobs that say required, that if you do not meet that requirement, you really shouldn't be applying to it. So again, takeaway from here, apply to things that say preferred. Don't apply to things that say required. But I talk a little bit about what you can kind of do to help figure out what nursing job's right for you in this video up above here. I'll post it. But if you haven't watched already, really the summary of that video is just to say, be honest with yourself on your skill set and do some deep self-reflection and find out what things you're passionate about. And that will really lead you to what jobs you should really be applying for. It goes into kind of how you should be applying for things that make sense based on your skill set, not really like what you want to have. As far as, you know, in my mind, I'd really like to be a great, I don't know, nurse coder, but I don't really have the skill set to do that. So it really doesn't make sense for me to apply for a coding job when I don't have that experience. Now, if you are applying to positions and you feel like, no, like I have the skill set, that's not the reason why, then I really advise you to look at number 1 and 2 and make sure that your resume really kind of reflected what you had applied for. And then also, did you go ahead and as soon as you applied for that job, did you go and on LinkedIn and look up that company and try to find recruiters you can talk to? If not, you need to be doing that. And a way that you can do that as well, that maybe is not through LinkedIn, maybe you had to submit an application to a certain email, go ahead and send them an email, follow-up email, and let them know that you're still interested in the position but you haven't heard anything, and then let them know what your availability is for a phone call, for a phone interview. Say, I'm available next week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, anytime after 4 p.m. Can't wait to hear from you. Put your phone number, and what's happened there? You've done part of their job. And how many times have we loved it when a patient has come in for a hospital admission and we're doing the admission process and we ask them about their medication list and they can just give you the medication list. Like, you love that. And that's exactly what you're doing for the recruiter when you're telling them, hey, I'm interested, here's my availability, here's my number, can't wait to talk. Like, you're doing that for them. You're providing that med list for them. So please go ahead and be proactive. Take initiative. Recruiters are on the computer all day searching for applicants, and if you can make their job just a little bit easier, you're really going to stand out from maybe the nurse that's like, oh, well, you know, I haven't heard back from them, I'm just gonna, you know, wait. That's you're not helping yourself. And I know that maybe you're trying to be respectful, maybe you don't want to bother anybody, but this is your life and you need to take some ownership of it and reach out, because the worst thing that's going to happen is they just say no, and then you know even sooner that this job's not for you and you're not wasting any more time and effort on it, and you can move on to the next. So really, you're helping yourself. Even if it's a rejection, it's something that you know even sooner now, because you did something and took the initiative, versus finding out later because you didn't, and now like you've wasted all this time when you maybe could have been searching and networking for another position. So please go ahead and make that initiative. Sometimes, yes, in these positions, it does take a while to hear back from them. From my own position, I think a month or so had gone by after I applied. I actually thought I didn't get the position because I hadn't heard from them. But it's really just the fact of the matter was that in the remote nursing world, they move a little bit slower than they do in the hospital. They have more interviews. I think when I got my first nursing job, I just had one interview, and that was, I got the job. That was how things went. It wasn't difficult. But with these positions in the remote world, they're going to require a little bit more time. They do things a little slower. For me, I think I had 4 interviews before I got my role. It took a while. So please be patient with this process if it's a job that you really want, and focus on the quality of the applications that you're submitting versus the quantity of applications, because you're really not doing yourself any favors if you're just sending out applications to everything. You really kind of have to think about you know, what skill set that you have, and maybe who your contacts are, and who you can network with for this position, and spend more time on making a quality application process for yourself versus just like throwing your application at everything that comes your way. That doesn't work. If you kind of think of it like dating, I always like to refer back to dating with this type of process, is that you really don't want to do a whole lot of like speed dating. Speed dating is fine if you're looking for something maybe that you need something right this instant. But if you really want to spend more time on something, give it your full attention, you really want to have like those longer type of dates to really get to know somebody. So speed dating versus like one, like maybe like dinner kind of dating. You're going to learn more about not the patient. You're going to learn more about the person when you spend more time on it. And again, focus on quality instead of quantity. So if you've done all of those things, and maybe you have a recommendation, if you're in a remote role right now, go ahead and put a comment down below of what you think worked for you, or maybe a tip that you would recommend that we didn't talk about. Again, these are kind of the tips that I'm really seeing as the most common. Of course, there's going to be something that's going to be different every now and then, but this is really what I'm seeing as far as the majority of nurses and why they haven't heard back about a position. So I definitely appreciate the time that you've spent watching this. If you haven't liked and subscribed already, please do so. That lets me know that this content is helping you, and I will continue to make more videos once I know that this information is being received well. But thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and until next time, bye for now.